Now, that was a little fun number by Bone Thugs and Harmony, just a little taste for you. And I know that my picture doesn't go with my song, but I thought I'd just add it in for fun. So let's talk about the cells that make up bones. There are two main types of cells, the osteoblasts and osteoclasts. The osteoblasts are the cells that are going to be bone building, and the osteoclasts are going to be for breaking down bone cell if needed. 35% of the bone is made up of these two types of cells. The other 65% is made up of inorganic material that is going to allow the cell to maintain its hardness and also be resistant to compression. Some of the main minerals that are involved in that are calcium and phosphorus. Let's talk about the function of bones. So bones are important because they allow our bodies to have that internal framework, to allow us to sit up, to have our posture in order to not just dissolve into a blob on the floor. It also allows us to move and have the flexibility. We have muscles that are attached to our bones to allow leverage, that allow us to move. It also allows us to protect a lot of our organs. I mean, think about our brain is enclosed in our skull. That allows that protection. Our rib cage protects our heart and our lungs. These bony areas, our spinal column protects our spine. These bony areas allow for that protection. Otherwise, no one would ever be able to play sports because those soft organs would be damaged constantly. Another thing that a lot of people don't know about is that our bones help with creating blood cells and also store some blood as well. But the main thing is that they're housed this tissue that allows blood cells to be created. Another form of, or another function that it offers is storage. The bones store calcium and many other minerals, and it also actually stores fat inside of inside the middle of not all bones, but some bones will also store fat. And hormones are going to be released to allow for either storage to hang on to those minerals and that fat, or to release it. Now let's talk about different ways we can classify bones. We can classify them by where they're located, the texture of them, and also the shape. So the division, we have the axial division, which is in white here. The axial is going to include the skull, the vertebral column, and also the rib cage. The appendicular is going to be the upper and lower limbs, and then the areas of attachment, or the girdles are referred to. Then we can also classify bone as compact or spongy. The compact is what it sounds like, is that it's very dense and it tends to be more smooth. And then we have spongy, which if you look here at this picture, you can see it has a lot of holes in it, it's very porous, and therefore it is less dense. So that's the main difference between compact bone and spongy bone. And then we can get into our different shapes. There are four main types or ways to classify a bone. We have long bones, which are just what they sound like, that they are longer than they are wide, and they are found a lot of times in your limbs. And they have epiphysis. Actually, I'm going to go back to this other one here. They have epiphysis at either end, and the epiphyseal line, that is like your growth plate inside of those bones. Now there's compact, but most of the long bones are made up, the long bones are mostly made up of compact tissue, but it also has this spongy tissue at either end as well. So they are going to be longer than they are wide. Then we have our short bones. Short bones tend to be more cube-like, and you find them in places where there's a lot of movement, like in your hands, in your feet. There's a lot of short bones that are found in that area. There's also special short bone, your patella or your kneecap is a sesamoid bone. That's going to be a special type of short bone. Then we have flat bones. These tend to be curved, and so you have like your skull bones, your sternum, your scapula, or your shoulder blade. Those are all flat bones. Flat bones are like almost like sandwich of tissue, because you have compact bone on either side and then spongy bone in the middle. Then we have irregular bones. Irregular bones are just, they don't fit into any of the other groups. So we have your vertebral column, all the vertebrae within there don't fit into one of those groups. Your pelvis is not going to fit into one of those groups. They contain both compact and spongy tissue as well, but they don't fit into the other groups at all. There are a variety of markings on these bones. They can be where the joints are taking place are located. They could be where nerves and blood vessels are going through the bone area. It could be where tendons and ligaments are attaching. These are all places where the bone could be changed in a way to have those and show those markings for those attachments. Finally, I want to talk about bone development. Bone development can be based on a variety of different things. Not having the right nutrients or exposure to sunlight, and different hormone levels, and even exercise can affect how our bones develop. Now, we have milk and other foods that are fortified with vitamin A and vitamin D. These vitamins are very important because it helps us to absorb calcium. Vitamin D specifically helps us to absorb calcium that is in our milk and in other dairy products, and also in greens as well. And remember, we get some of that vitamin D. We can make some of that vitamin D ourselves by being exposed to sunlight, that UV light. And so a little bit of UV light is good. Obviously, too much can be bad because it can lead to different forms of cancer. But a little bit, having that in regular exposure is good because it's going to help us make our own vitamin D and not just have to ingest it with our food. Now, there's actually a disease out there called rickets, where in children that don't have enough vitamin D and don't have enough calcium in their body. So this is vitamin D is very important. Vitamin A is going to be important because it's going to regulate the osteoblast and osteoclast activity. Hormones are going to be important as well because they allow growth at that growth plate within those long bones, and the onset of that is the estrogen, testosterone, and puberty that allows those long bones to begin to grow. Then finally we have when our bones aren't developing anymore, we have osteoporosis that can take place, because when you're younger adults, you have more bone growth than bone reabsorption. In middle age, it becomes a little bit more balanced, and then in older age, you have more bone reabsorption than you do bone growth, and so that can lead to osteoporosis. There's many things that can increase your chances of having osteoporosis. Having just a petite form or framework, being exposed to smoke, either by smoking yourself or secondhand smoke, not getting enough calcium. In fact, you're at an age now where you should be taking in lots of calcium to build the bone mass, because with osteoporosis, what that means is the bone mass is being reduced. And so you get to my age, and I'm in kind of more of a maintenance stage, just taking calcium to maintain the amount of bone mass I have, and then from there on, it kind of starts to go downhill. And so the osteoporosis is those bones just become more porous and more likely to break.